This conference will now be recorded.
Right, let's start today's session. So in the last session, we were discuss about controllers in ASP.NET Core. Okay, so how to work with controller. Okay, so how to add your own controller and how to get a functions from the controller. So how to include functions and what is the return type, all we discussed in the last session. Today, I'm going to introduce a models. So what is model and how to add your own models, how to bring the data from model and display into end user by using controller only. So one controller can have multiple, one controller folder can have multiple controllers. I have recently added employee controller, home controller like this. Home controller is the default controller, employee controller is our own controller. Clearly, I have added. Now today we'll discuss about models in ASP.NET Core. So what is model? How to work with model? We'll discuss. Models in ASP.NET Core application. What is model? So in this session, in especially model concept, what is model and what is the role of model, how to add new model to your application, and how to return a model data from action method of controller. Okay, we'll discuss. So first, what is model? What is model? So as we discussed in the previous example, okay, a model is a class. What is model in the sense? A model is a class. What class? C# class. A model is a class which is having .cs, that means C# extension. Yes, model is a C# class which is having .cs C# extension. We generally have C# properties, that means for each field of data in one model class. Okay, in general, we have C# properties. C# properties. C# property means each field of data, we can say that. Each field of data, C# properties in one model class. In one model class like this. In general, we have C# properties, each field of data in one model class. Each field of data in one model class. So model is a C# class which is having .cs extension. In general, we have a C# properties, each field of data in one model class. And what is the role of model actually here? Role of model. What is the role of model means? A model is responsible for data. A model is responsible for what actually? Data. So a model is responsible for data. If you want to represent the data, model is required in MVC pattern. We get data from a source. We get data from a source in the form of model. In the form of model. At the same time, we set data to a source in the form of model only. In the form of model. These things. If you want to get a data from source in the form of model, then we use model class. We set the data to a source in the form of model only here. Okay. So how to add model class, we will discuss now. To add the models, very simple here in C# ASP.NET. So how we have added a folder called controller folder. Same, we have to right click on it, web app core, your website name, and go to add and click on new folder. So once we click on new folder, we have to mention the folder name is called model only. So models, better models, because controllers are their models. So we have added successfully a new folder called models folder. After adding models folder, right click on model folder, go to add, Now you can see this. We have to prepare a class because model is a C# class or no? Yes. So I'm preparing class model class. My model class name is, you can take any model class, but I'm trying to give my model class name is employee model class I'm using. My model class name is what? Employee model class. Click on add. You have added successfully model class clearly. Model is nothing but C# class. Now you can see, and in general, we have C# properties, each field of data in one model class. So I'm going to declare my C# properties, each field of data in one model class. How to declare properties? You know that in C#, public int ID I'm taking, and get accessor, set accessor I'm taking here. Next, one more field I'm taking, public string, okay, string name I'm taking name. So get and then set only. Next, what model field I'm taking, public string address I'm taking open get and then set only. That's all. So public int ID name address. These are what actually my employee model class field. Okay. So employee model class field. Once employee model class field is done, okay, once employee model class field done, then I want to represent this model data. Okay. So how to represent this model data? I mean, generally database logic, uh, any implementations you can also do in model classes directly, but generally model classes can have that properties only. But separate logic if you want to write, then we need to prepare separate folder. So maintain the separate logic in separate folder is the best option, because total logic can be used in from that model only. So I am going to prepare a folder, in where I'm going to prepare a folder means that folder I'm preparing inside the model class only. Inside the model class, I'm preparing the folder. So I'm right click on models, go to add, I'm giving folder name. So folder name is just I'm taking repository. Repository. What is repository? Repository is a meaning, it's a storage. So git repository like that only. Okay, so that I'm giving meaningful name. You can give any name, no problem at all. No need to give always repository only like this. Just meaningful name I'm giving. It's my model repository. Here in this, I'm going to write some logic. So how to write logic in this repository, we will see now. So we can add the class into repository. Right click on repository folder, go to add and class I'm taking. This is also C# class. So my complete logic I'm going to use into employee repository only. Employee repository I'm using. Employee repository is my meaningful name I'm adding. So this is my exclusively database class creation like this. I'm trying to do this because we are not maintaining any SQL Server database right now. Later in our upcoming sessions, we will show you how to connect the database SQL Server, how to bring that data from SQL Server database and display into template. We'll discuss. Right now, I'm going to get the data from this repository and I want to bring that into as a response only. How to bring that as a response? Let me show you. Public employee repository class is there. This class is present in which models folder? Repository folder only. Okay. Now here what I'm taking, so public, so list my collection I'm taking here. So I'm giving employee model into list, employee model into list. After that, what I'm trying to do, so I'm going to call this method. What method I'm calling, sir? Get all employees I'm calling here. Now you can see get all employees method I'm calling. Get all employees. Now open and close bracket. Get all employees methods is already there. Where it is there in employee controller, you can see get all employees are there or not. Yes, this method I'm calling. But in this employee repository, get all employees method is not there because it has to return. So I want to return data store only. So where is data store? I'll data source. Let me show you. Data source is also there. This data source I have to return here. So where is this data source? Yes, I will tell you where is this data source actually. Let's uncomment this. First of all, data source, I will prepare it and I'll come back again. Okay. So data source we must and should prepare, sir. So where is the data source means here? I'm taking here, public sorry, private list, list collection, generic collection, and now you can see employee model, employee model, employee model. I'm preparing my data source. Source is not coming from database, source is coming from this list collection only, and this source I'm going to use it into my application. So now you can see return new list employee model. In this, I'm preparing multiple sources. What are the multiple sources? You can see all employee records I'm taking. New employee model, employee model, employee model. And after that, in the dictionary format, so ID equals to 1, name equals to Sai, okay, name equals to I, address equals to HYD, like this one employee model. And like this multiple employee records, I'm going to add it. So how to add multiple employee records here? Just observe here, multiple employee records I'm adding. Close this and copy this. Let's copy one more thing. Oh, let's copy this total thing. Place it, place it like this. Okay, multiple records, any number of records you can include here. Suppose I'm inserting ID number 2, ID number 3, ID number 4, ID number 5, and name is just I'm taking SANJ Sana, MYJ Mohan, RAJ Raj, SATYA Satya, and location is I'm taking HYD only, no problem at all. All the locations are something. Or else let's go for SR Nagar. Here also I'm taking SR Nagar like this. Okay, this is my employee data source I'm taking. This is list generic collection, we can call it as it is. Return new list of employee model. Every time I'm creating one object, like 1, 2, 3, 4 objects are there. This data source I have to return into this get method through. Here I'm using return data source only. This is not going to give any error now this time. Got my point? So this is clear, sir. And here only all employees purpose, we can call this method, because this method is already there in my employee model. You can see this employee controller, get all employees. Okay, this we have to change it. I'll change it, no problem. So in this employee repository class, I'm returning get employee method through data source. I'm returning here. What I'm returning? Data source. This is only one all employee records. When we call this method, all employees will get this. All 5 employees records will come. And now I want to prepare one more model, method. This method is only for what particular employee ID here. So get employee by ID only. Get employee by ID. Where is this method? So let's go for get employee by ID. Get employee ID by ID is available in this get employee. Okay. Oh, get employee only there. There is no get employee by ID. No problem. Get employee method I'm calling in this repository get employee method, and based on that what it will come ID only. So open and close get employee int ID. So return data source dot, I'm using where condition here. Now you can see where condition. This is actually query set, what we can say, this is link query only. So I'm using lambda expressions. Don't worry about these lambda expressions. Okay, I will talk about these expressions in later session. X equals to x dot id. I'm taking x dot id. X dot id equal to id should be match here. Okay, then what I'm using first or default method I'm using like this method. So return data source. This get employee method through only particular ID record you will get. Get employees means all records you will get like this. So this is my method, but I want to search. I have one more method is the also their employee controller. Now you can see search employee methods are there. Search employees. This methods only I'm using. Search employees in the repository class. I'm including one more method, search employees also. How to include one more method? You can see public list. After that employee model, and what actually search employees I'm taking method, and string with what I'm taking name I want to search with name and I want to search with address only. Both through I want to search it. How to search it again? Return data source is your employee collection. In this data source only, I have to search it by using where condition of x arrow method and x dot title through I have to x dot name through I have to search, x dot name through I have to set equal to name only, equal to name. This name is what actually? This name only. I'm comparing. This is actual name only. X arrow method, x dot name equal to name only, and the symbol I'm using. Both the way I want to search x dot what actually? Address equal to address. This address is this one. This is the main address. So here have to search with address only. So completely I'm taking what actually return type is to list only. I'm taking to list method. That's all. So look at here. My data source is this one, sir. Data source. Source is coming from where? This data. So data is how many records? 5 records. If I call this method, all records will come. Total entire the data set will data source will return. Means total 5 records will come. If I go for set employees, get employee, only particular employee ID through we are going to get one record. Sets employees means you can set the name of the employees or address of the employees. Our name and address both are matching. That employee records will come. For example, if I set Sana and equal to SR Nagar, that record only will come like that. So these are the methods. These methods I included in where? Employee repository.cso. So this is repository class is a logic class. What logic? Model logic class is there. Model means what? Representation of data. Where is your model data? Here it is data is there. Actually, in our upcoming session, I will bring this data to the data from database only. But right now, temporarily, I'm using my model class only, employee model class through. I'm going to get this data here. Next, immediately, what we need to do? We need to change the logic. Here we can use better or only because either you can search with name or address only better, but both are not required to match. Anyone can match, it is going to be okay, no problem. Okay, and to avoid that case sensitive information, we can also make changes here. What is the changes here? Now you can see name, okay, equal to instead of that, we can better to go for contains method is there. Name contains, name contains, name dot contains better, name dot contains method is there. So contains what we have to take name only. If any matches is there, this will work here. Even without address equal to also, then we can go for address contains equals to address only. Just whatever it contain, it lowercase, uppercase, no matter, that will be contain and that will return the values only clearly. This is better, sir, actually. Contains method. This you can close this. Now to list only. Okay. So here you can see this is the case. Contains dot to list and x dot address contains. Instead of equal symbol, I use what actually contains method only clearly here. So this is about methods into repository class. So in this repository class, first we have to go to your controller, sir. What controller? Employee controller. Because here we have employee repository, you have to include this employee repository into employee controller. Then only employee controller can know that all the things what is going to happen. Okay, let's going to be add in the employee controller. I'm taking one method called what actually private read only. So I'm going to take employee repository here, but employee repository is there? No, employee repository will not come here. Null I'm taking, but employee repository if you want to bring, then we have to include namespace here. Expand this arrow symbol. Just observe here, expand this arrow symbol, and employee repository is coming from web app core models dot repository here. Look at here, from here it will come. So employee controllers will get employee repository class from web application core dot models folder dot repository folder. Now automatically it will be added on the top corner. You can see web app core dot models dot repository. Then it will come here. Okay. So I'm taking here equals to null. First I'm taking equals null. Private read only employee repository equal to null. So I have to create a constructor for this. So let's create constructor for this here. Okay, how to prepare constructor for this? Let me go for this. So I'm preparing constructor public. So just give me 1 second. employee controller is there, and now I want to prepare constructor for employee controller. Let me add constructor for employee controller, public, open and close. Now you can see this is constructor, but we don't have any constructor. Public. Give me 1 second, sir. Some wrong. Employee controller.cs, and I'm taking here private read-only employee repository equals to null, and I'm adding constructor for this here. So how we can add constructor? Oh, sorry, constructor repository object is not there here. You can see this underscore employee repository object I'm preparing equals to null. This is I'm taking my object name employee repository. Okay, then equal to null. Now I'm going to create a constructor now. Public. My class name is same as constructor name. Open and close. And here this object I'm preparing. Now employee repository equals to new employee repository class. So now you can see this is the class and this is an object of employee controller class only. Here I am injecting this employee repository class to this controller, employee controller. Now this time you can see this, I'm going to run the application and check. But before run the application and check, what we need to do here, you can see this. Okay, so what get all employees should be written. Previously it written only all employees, but now this time what it should written? List employee model. List employee model. You can see this will return what actually list employee model only it has to return. Okay, so now I'm changing employee controller. So in this I'm taking return type is completely list 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 list. What is that actually? List employee model, employee model, employee model. So this will return employee model only. Okay, so now we can see return underscore employee repository, sorry, return underscore employee repository dot what actually get all employees. So it has to be written this list employee model only, but employee model is not available, no, so that's what we have to generate employee model only. So employee model will come automatically, employee model web app core dot models, because employee model is coming from your application web app core and inside the models folder. Then in this model folder employee model is there here. This should be available here only. So when we call get all employees, it will return employee repository dot get all employees method call. Employee repository is what here? It is read only, and it is inherited from where? Employee controller. Immediately it will go to employee repository class. When we call get employee method, it will bring data source. Data source means what? This data will come here. So this is employee controller class. Next here, only particular employee ID also. So only one particular employee ID is there. But later what I want to do, particular employee ID also I need to change. Previously only customized data used here. But now this time you can see employee ID also, which is only particular employee ID through we are going to get what actually employee model I'm going to return. Employee model. Return type is employee model. And employee model only based on particular ID I have to get this employee repository dot what is get employees or get employee only, because this method is only get employee by what? ID. So ID I'm passing, that's all. So this will return only particular employee ID. But now we can see search employees also I want to return or not. Yes, what you have to return in search employees, what is return type? Again, list employee model only. Search employee means this will be written here. Copy this and instead of string and paste it here. Now you can see here same logic. I want to go for employee repository object dot What method is there? Search employees method is there. And with what name I have to search? Name, name, comma, address. Name, comma, address only. Yes, this through I have to search it. But this name and address is not coming now. So name in the sense here, this is name. So why name is not coming here? You can see this EMP name and EMP address is there, but here we are changing now. Okay, so let's go for EMP name and EMP address. This is my values. I have to search with EMP name and EMP address like this only. Got my point? Or else directly you can say name and address also you can take, no problem. Better to go for name and address to avoid confuse. Name and address. This is the better option, no? Name and address. Address through I want to search, name through I want to search. That's all. This is fine. So this is the way to get this result, sir. What I did means I included models in this program, sir. Model class. I have introduced model. So models means database representation. Model generally contain what actually? C#.NET properties, ID, name, properties. Properties, you know that get means get the data from data source. Set means set the data into data source. So a model is a C#.NET class which is having C# extension. In general, we have a C# properties, each field of data in one model class. What is the role of model means? A model is responsible for data. We get the data from source in the form of model. We set the data source in the form of model only. So model class is this, we set and get. After that, I have included my business logic of my model class. I maintain separate repository folder. In this employee repository class is there. I included my private data source. Data source means it's look like database only, but not database. In place of here, I will use in our upcoming session SQL Server database details. Right now, I am using generic collection here, list collection. In this list collection, each list of employees, ID number 1, 2, 3, and so on, 5 employees I'm maintaining. This is my data source. Whenever I call this method, it return what actually? List employee model only. List employee model means this is only will return. This will return data source. Data source means all will display here when we call this method. Next, public employee model, my class name constructor and get employee method. Based on ID through I want to get the details. So I'm returning data source dot. In this data source, I am passing link command, LINQ, language integrated query, means no need to separately write the query. Where condition, lambda expression I'm using, X arrow mark, arrow function it is. X dot ID equal to ID. This ID means property. This ID matching here, first or default. Okay, whatever it is, first or default value will come. ID is matches. Once this ID is matches, which ID is matches, that ID will come. Now we can see this search employees is there means I'm going to return this search employees functions through list employee model only. So either you can search this name contains name or address contains address only. This functions, this is for language integrated query syntax here. So these all available in their employee repository. I have to inject this employee repository class to what controller? Employee controller. Why, sir? You know, first, whenever we execute the application, where it will go, sir? First, it will go to startup.cs. Okay, in startup.cs, routing is there. What is the default routing? Map default controller route. Immediately, it will go to controller. So what is the controller is there? You can see controller is there here, controller. Which controller you are working on right now? Home control. By default, home controller it will go, but I have my own control is there. Whenever control is there, then action methods will be called. What are the action methods are there here, sir? Get all employees is one action method. Get employees action method. Get employee by ID is action method. Search employees action method. These action methods will get the data from where? Your model class. Model class is where it is the employee repository. In the employee repository, this model functions are there. Model function through we are getting the data here. So first request goes to startup.cs. Okay, these are what actually first request will go to routing. Routing after next request goes to what? Controller. Controller after next request goes to action method. Action method when we call, then it will return what actually? Your repository class, because we have created repository class object. So automatically it will come like this one. So this is the code. Now let's run the server. So what will happen? You can see this. I have to call the methods completely. First, it will go to home controller by default. Okay, if you want to use your own controller, then we have to hit the URL, your own controller name, like employee controller. Your controller name is employee, and slash your functionality, you can able to hit this, get all employees, like that. First, it will go to home controller only. After tracing, now you can see home controller is going, but this is not your controller. I have my own controller slash employee slash get employees. Yes or no? Now you can see the local host page cannot be found. So let me check out that properly. Get all employees. No, this is my request is wrong. Get all employees. Yes, this is correct. Now you can see all employees are coming or not. So this is the request we have to. I'm going to copy paste this URL because later I have to prepare the documentation to send to you. Now you can see we are getting this all employees or not. In what format actually? This is JSON format. I'll tell you later. Now we can say I want to call what method again. Get all employees means where it is employee repository, it will go, and get all employees means it will return what? Data source. Data source means what? All employees are coming or not. Yes. Next, what I want to do, only get employee method I'm going to call. Where I have to call in the home controller, employee controller, you can see get employee. So this employee method compulsory will get what? ID only. ID is expecting. So ID through we are going to get. So home controller is my employee. Get employee, I'm taking my method name, and ID number 1 means only one ID is one employee ID is coming. Employee ID 2 means second ID is coming, like this. This is the home controller execution, employee controller execution, like this. Next, what method is there? Search is there. In the search context, you can see what we have to search, sir. Compulsory we have to search. For searching purpose, search employee method is required here. This method is required. Let's go for home controller, like employee controller is my controller name. After that, search employees is a method. After that, question mark is required because URL and query string variables are separated by question mark. And what the way you want to search? Name equals to what you want to give? Sana. And symbol is there, and the symbol is there. Address equals to what is there? HYD. So now you can see name or address. Name is Sana and address is HYD. So all are HYD people only there. But you can see this SR Nagar, Sana is there. Address, how many records are there? You can see 1, 2, 3, 4 only. Why fourth record is not coming? Just observe here, fourth record. Name equal to Sana means Sana record will come, or address equal to HYD means address. Suppose SR Nagar I'm giving. SR Nagar. This SR Nagar address people only will get, and Sana record also get. Name is Sana and address is SR Nagar. Both are matching. It's working now. This is searching actually here. Search employees. So these three URLs we have to hit this in your target case. So this is very simple. So we are writing model class, employee model class using properties. In this employee model folder only, I have created repository folder. I have included repository methods. This is data source. This data source I am displaying into where actually? In my employee controller, like this only. This is the flow. First, you have to understand, sir, request where it will go. Whenever we start, first it will go to startup.cs. In the startup.cs, endpoints are there, no? Map default controller route. Map default controller route means here it will go to controller. Where it will go? Home controller it will go first. Because default routing is home controller only. You can see when we expand this home controller, what is the default controller name? Home. Action method is what? Index only. So it will go to default or home controller. But I need to execute my own controller, no? So that's what I did in the URL address. I have given my own controller name. What controller name? Like slash employee. Okay, slash employee. After that, get all employees. So automatically it will go to employee controller. In this employee controller, what method will call? Get all employees method will call. Get all employees method will return what? List employee model. When we call employee repository dot get employee, because already employee repository class I injected to this employee controller. So employee repository is there, object is there. This object through we are calling this get employee method. Whenever we call this get employee method, it will go to employee repository. It will go to employee repository class, and repository class is having what method? Get all employees. This method will return what? Data source. Data source is where? Here it is there. So this is the flow of execution. Okay, let's go to rerun this. Now you can see here we are using home controller, but I want to run my own employee controller. Controller name is employee slash employee, employe, employee slash get employees. I'm taking get all employees, get all employees like this. So we got the result. Okay, here there is no case sensitive. Any cases you can use. Get employees means all records. Okay, get employee slash two means only one record. Okay, get employee spelling is correctly how to use. Get all employees, not get employee only. I have used it all. You have to remove all. Then now this time it will okay. Now search means you can able to search that also. So this is about model introduction and model preparation. That model data I'm sending through controller to where? Default response. Through controller through default response. What is the default response? In the browser only. But just observe here, sir, whenever we retrieve the data, why don't we display into the view section? Yes, next target is that is only. Whatever we get the data from models in the repository class, this model data I want to render or represent into where? Template. That means views. But do we have any views are here? No view. So in our next session, we have to introduce views concept only. I introduce controller, I introduce model, and next I'm going to introduce views. Views means this same data I want to represent into view section actually. View is nothing but presentation. You can use multiple views also. So once I introduce views, so that you will be able to set right like models, controllers, views, all three folders we can able to manage everything here. This is the model preparation. And in tomorrow's session, we'll go for views concept clearly. So one by one, I'm introducing. At a time, if I introduce again, you will get confused. So that's what slowly I'm introducing. Once model view controller introduction is over, then we will speed up the sessions clearly. So controller, how to handle, you know that. Models, how to handle, you know that. And tomorrow we'll discuss views, how to include and how to send this model data to the view. View means template, presentation layer. Finally, I want to display the view only. So that view section, how it will be, we'll discuss in tomorrow's session clearly. So once introduction is over, like MVC model view controller, then we will speed up the session. Just a flow you can understand, so it will be easy. This code you can remove it, not a marker, because this is generic return type, generic classes only. These are in C#.NET we use generics. No, generics are general data type like this. Same. So don't miss tomorrow. Tomorrow also I'm going to introduce very important thing, that is view section only. All three layers how can coordinate. Tomorrow I'll explain that clearly. Controller through controller can interact with model. Model controller will bring the model data. That model data will display into view. This is the flow. Here controller is the main. Controller will take request from user. That user request will process if user is expecting some data. So controller is responsible to communicate with model classes. Model classes data controller will bring and display into here, and this data only render into where? Into as a response only, or else if you have view is there, then you have to return to the view only. Right now view is not there, that's what this values will not return to the view only. So view introduction, view display completely in tomorrow will cover.